Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, Shawn Busse and Laura Zander discuss what exactly Laura's job should be. She's CEO, of course, and she's been focused on acquisitions and growing the business, but she's never really found someone to take over the big role she used to play, which leads to some interesting questions. Should she go back to being her own chief marketing officer, or does she need to go out and spend real money to hire one? And then, toward the end of the conversation, Laura actually devises a plan on the spot to sell yarn in a surprising and creative way, which perhaps answers the very question we've been discussing. Plus, Shawn explains how having the right partner can make a business in the beginning and break it over time, as he celebrates having made his final payout to his own former partner. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations, brought to you by our principal sponsor, The Great Game of Business, will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. Same thing with our daily newsletter, the 21 Hats Morning Report, which Inc. magazine named the best newsletter for business owners, and which you can subscribe to for free at 21hats.com, where you can also find transcripts of our podcast episodes and lots of other articles and interviews. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Shawn Busse, CEO of Kinesis, which is based in Portland, Oregon, and works with small businesses on marketing, culture, and strategy, and Laura Zander, who is CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital yarn store based in Reno, Nevada, and Madeline Tosh, a yarn manufacturer and distributor based in Fort Worth, Texas. The episode is titled, Can Jimmy Bean's Wool Sell Yarn on LinkedIn? Welcome, Shawn and Laura. It's great to have you here. You were both part of the first episode we taped this year, along with Paul Downs, who told us that his New Year's resolution for 2024 was to make some damn money. I think you both echoed his comments that the previous year, 2023, had been pretty tough and that you were hoping for better in 2024. We're already about 2 months into 2024. I'm curious how it's looking. How about you, Shawn? How's it going so far for you?
It's going really well.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
We're having a really good first quarter. The projections, at least 3 months out, look really good. And then if I go 6 months out, those still look pretty good too. So the funnel has finally got good opportunities in it. Yeah, it's a 180 from especially the third quarter last year, which was really, really dark.
Ooh, interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting on the third quarter being hard. Ours was the first and the second quarter. So I guess that probably trickles down to B2B being third quarter, maybe. Were you expecting the third quarter to be bad?
We started to turn on the red lights of like freak out around the end of the second quarter. We're like, oh, this isn't looking good. But the problem is that historically the summer is always a slow time for us. So it's hard to know, is this seasonality or is this...
Same page.
Turns out it wasn't seasonality. Yeah. It was just bad.
Do you attribute your turnaround so far this year to the campaign that you've told us about of getting your whole team to reach out to more people? I think you spent 100 days trying to make new contacts. Is that what this turnaround is about?
In big part, yeah. We took it really seriously and we took action. And that's really encouraging that, you can change the trajectory of your business in a pretty short period of time if you take the right action. So that was good. The other thing we changed was shifting the responsibility for business development from mostly just me, and maybe with one other person in the past, to kind of a team sport. So we kind of made it, hey, this is the expectation of the job if you're within these roles. And that made a big difference. We also changed our offerings a bit. So we brought some new product services to market that were a little easier for people to buy, a little smaller price tag. And that was, I'm finding like just a lot easier to sell.
Can I hijack this just a little?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm so curious because last year for us was one of the hardest years that we've ever had. And for us, it turns into like an emotionally difficult year. And so I'm, post-mortem, I'm looking back and, the first quarter doesn't really go as well. And we're trying to dig in and we're trying to like identify, what is it? Is it us? Is it the market? Is it you? Is it you? Is it somebody in particular? And we actually did find a couple of instances of things that people were supposed to be doing that they weren't doing. So that in some way was actually validating and it was something we could fix. We're like, okay, great. Problem solved. We know what's going on. You were supposed to reach out to these customers and you didn't. And second quarter, the yellow light was on and now we're in the red light and we're like, holy crap, like what are we going to do? It's not getting better. So do you start to think about laying off people? Do you just ride it out? Like what happens when cash flow is starting to burn up? And how do you not, and I'm asking you because you seem so much more level-headed than I am. How do you not kind of emotionally freak out and just, it's not that we go into panic mode, but like, what are you guys doing? What is the marketing team doing? Like, how come you're not doing that? And then you start to nitpick and you're like, why aren't you sending the newsletters out 3 times a week instead of 2 times a week? And why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing that? And I don't go at it quite that obtusely, I guess, but that's what's in my head. As you start to like try to figure out, 1, what's going on with the market, but 2, is this team doing what the team is supposed to be doing? Do you kind of go through that? Then of course, like the team starts to spin and we're all kind of struggling.
I think it's important to note, you have a bigger organization than I do,
Sure.
So I'm sure the dynamics there are different. We're in that like 11, 13, 14 person size company.
So you can all talk about it together.
Everybody feels it. We can talk about it. We can really recruit everybody to the effort. And since, the team I have is pretty high level. I was
going to say, you're all professionals, right?
They're all professionals.
Okay.
Salaries are ungodly high.
Yeah.
But, it means you can talk a profit and loss statement with the team.
Okay.
And they get it. And we do. And we look at like profit and loss together and go, holy shit. And also, by the way, our first quarter was terrible too. We just had a terrible year. It was so bad. I haven't had as bad a year since the Great Recession.
Okay. And does your team step up and like work more? Are they kind of motivated to fix it?
Very motivated. Yes.
Okay. I got people who don't want to work more than 39 and a half hours a week,
Is it working more or is it working on the right things?
A little bit of both, Yeah. And that's, one of the problems is our leadership in certain areas maybe isn't as we discovered is not as strong as we had thought.
Laura, that theme you just shared there, I've heard that more than I have in a long time. Like, we thought our leaders had things and that they didn't.
Yep.
Like kind of that middle management layer.
It's exactly that layer, and they just fell apart.
Why? What's your thought on like what's going on?
So I have 2 different, obviously we have a Texas business and we have a Nevada business, and they're very different. And the drop in sales affected both of the teams extremely differently. The team in Texas really dug into expenses, and our sales were lower, but our expenses were lower than our sales were lower. So we actually had a better financial year than we had before because we dug in, under the line. But on the Nevada side, which is primarily e-commerce, I think we got this false sense of security and confidence from the bump that the pandemic gave us as an e-commerce business. And so I think that, the team probably felt like we were Superman. They were Superman and could really do anything. And all we have to do is put new products up and talk about them in a newsletter and bam, because we got this huge bump in customers during that time.
Yeah.
So then I think that, what my general manager and I talked about a bunch was, for us, we've been working for 20, 30 years. And so we've seen ups and we've seen downs, and we know there are just down years, and when there's a down year, you got to dig in. Our team is so young that they haven't experienced that, and there's, not to stereotype, but, there's a little bit of the 20-something work-life balance, don't want to work past 5 o'clock. This is a for-profit company, and I don't know.
Laura, I'd like to throw another kind of a related possibility at you, which is this.
both today and in your last time here, I've heard you talk about not being aware of things going on in the business in a way that I haven't heard you suggest in the past.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of wondering how much this is related to you not being as involved in the day-to-day as you have in the past, because you've been involved in doing other things, including
in Texas,
buying other businesses.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. And I hate to even say that. I mean, I have been for the last 4 years kind of on a path to semi-retirement when it comes to the Nevada business, and, had been working with our general manager for her to just take on the business. I can handle the financial side of it and, do kind of the CFO role, but she would manage everything else. So managing growth, managing the marketing, managing blah, blah, blah. And, the discovery this year was just she doesn't have a strong enough team underneath her. And so she was doing, and I didn't realize this, I don't think either one of us really realized how much she was doing that her team was supposed to be doing. So, when they couldn't do something, she would step in and take it on herself. So she was working probably, I'm sure 80 hours a week, all year to kind of compensate for the work that wasn't getting done.
Wow.
So back to your question, for whatever reason, I don't really think that I add a ton of value on the Nevada side, on the Jimmy Bean side, but maybe I do, because I've been way more involved in the last 3 months and 4, 5, 6 months. I mean, as Shawn said, once the red light really was flashing, I jumped in and, as a tornado, and I'm like, all right, fuck it. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to fix it. And I know I'm going to create some issues and I'm going to cause some problems, but, this is our business. And so I should say I've been way more involved in the last 6 months in the day to day. And I like to think, I guess it's making a difference. We're up again and did some major course correcting.
This year is looking up?
Yeah. Yep, on the e-commerce side, absolutely. Yep, it's looking way better, way, way better.
Laura, last year I promoted Anya Taylor to the president role in Kinesis. It's part of my transition plan. One of the best decisions I've made in my business. I'm really, really delighted. Before she worked at Kinesis, she worked at it's called kind of like whenever you go into a store and you see like the Nike section of the store and they have all these displays and all this stuff. They were the company that built all the displays. I don't know what the industry is called.
Merchandising. Yeah. Something.
Yeah. So really, she supervised people who are running table saws and maybe occasionally drawing things in drafting programs. So like really kind of blue collar manual labor stuff. She oversaw, maybe a dozen or more people. What's interesting is now she's overseeing people with, 6-figure salaries, sometimes 2 degrees, graduate degrees, et cetera. Really a very different type of employee. And she kicks ass with both. Like she was so good at being a leader. Like she's one of these people who has the ability to just cultivate people around her.
Yep, that's my general manager.
And I'm just like, man, that is such a valuable trait.
Yep.
And I think folks underestimate how important that is. In an organization, where she like empowers other people to be successful.
And that's exactly who our general manager was. She came from a merchandising, furniture, home decor, kind of 20 years of experience in that, mostly working with people who get paid by the hour. And she came in 5 or 6 years ago. It's been 6 or 7 years now. And just what she's done to our business is phenomenal. But where I think, I don't want to say we made the mistake, but maybe we made the mistake, is it's the marketing and it's customer acquisition. For me, that's what it really boils down to. It's the sales funnel. And I've been told that like I'm a marketer and that I'm good at that. And, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that other people can't do it as well or do it a lot better than I have. So I've let go of that for the last few years and just thought she could take that on with the leader that she has. And I just don't think their skills are there. They don't have that same intuition. They don't think that same way. They don't think huge. They don't think about getting Hugh Jackman to do a video for them. And we haven't had that for a number of years, and I think it's just catching up to us.
Yeah.
And so that's where, I'm kind of stepping back in and like, okay, we got to think big. Going back to like marketing 101, it's not just about marketing to our existing customers, which our team is really good at. It's about we have to grow. Literally our customers are dying off every year. We have an older customer base and we need to get new customers in, and we need to do it in a systematic way. And our team doesn't think that way.
Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest marketing. New customer acquisition is 100% the hardest marketing you can do.
Oh, it is? Oh, I love that.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, I think it's so fun.
See, this is like your unique gift. Like anytime there's something where you think it's easy and everybody else thinks it's hard, it's like that's the special thing, right? That's your unique gift.
Yeah, it's just door to door. I love going door to door.
Along those lines, when you described it before as your team kind of lost sight of marketing 101.
Yes.
I think along the lines of what Shawn is saying, it really isn't marketing 101.
No, it's not.
You brought a unique brand of creativity to it. And just the example you gave of bringing in Hugh Jackman to be part of a campaign.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not marketing 101.
Yeah, it is. It's easy. But no, this is actually very enlightening and that is the mistake. The oversight that we made is that I assumed that stuff is just marketing 101. Like, it's not that fucking complicated, it's not that hard. And so I let go of that, and my expectations then obviously are set at the wrong level. And I'm expecting other people to just be able to do that. And it doesn't come as naturally for them. And so we're having to reset and reorganize, and then you figure out, like, do I find somebody who that is marketing 101 for, which is expensive, or do I, this goes back to Cliff Oxford.
But I don't think that's what you're looking for.
Well, that's what Cliff would always say. He's just like, you're never going to find somebody to replace you.
Who's Cliff Oxford? Sorry, I don't know Cliff.
Oh, Cliff was he was in a blogger for the New York Times. He's been friends with Lauren forever. And was a good mentor to me in a lot of ways. And he was a marketing genius, if you will. But yeah, he used to always just say, he's like, you're not going to find somebody else. Like, you are marketing. You are the marketing person. And I resisted and have resisted and resisted. I'm like, I don't want to do it. It's too easy. It's boring. I want to do other stuff. But anyway, maybe the takeaway here is, and I love what you said, Shawn, is that if I think something's easy and other people say it's hard, then maybe that is my unique gift, and that's something I need to lean into as opposed to trying to outsource or farm off. And then I get frustrated because I'm just like, dude, it's not that freaking hard.
Tell us about those 2 acquisitions, Laura.
Yeah. Well, red lights flashing, ship's going down. And we had a couple opportunities to basically buy some sales, to buy some growth.
You said the red light's flashing and the ship's going down. Tell us, is that really what you mean? Were you afraid that the business was failing?
No, but, at a certain size, you have to have a certain amount of revenue, to get above break even. And so, last year was tough. We were barely break even, and that's not a healthy place to be. And it was fine for last year, but for me, there are signs there of things that aren't going well that, if I project those 2 years out or 3 years out, like, we just can't have that kind of year every year. So I guess looking around the corner, trying to figure out, okay, it's June of 2023. What do we need to do now to set us up in 2024 so we don't have a repeat of this year? Knowing that it's going to take us 3 to 6 months, for some things to pay off. So we launched a new line of yarn, and then we did these 2 acquisitions on the Texas side of things. And I did these 2 acquisitions for a couple reasons. One was a brand that had gone out of business the year prior. And so I had been talking to the woman who had owned this brand for about a year. Hey, can we take it on? Can we take it on? But we wanted her products, not her brand. And so it took her a year to kind of acquiesce. And we launched her products in December. So when she finally said yes, which was in November, she said yes. And I'm like, we got to move on this. Let's nail this, let's get it in the books so that she can't change her mind and we can move forward with this. So it was something that we as a team had talked about a little bit every 3 or 4 months, but, it came kind of suddenly. So it was a little bit of a shock to the system, and my team in Texas they're freaking heroes. They jumped on it. We were able to pre-launch, these new products and pre-sell these new products within about 2 weeks of us buying this. And we just got the products from the factory in Japan last week. We're shipping them out. It's going really, really, really well. What happened at the same time is before this opportunity came up, another hand-dyed yarn business came to me and asked if we wanted to take that on. And we needed the work. Our facility in Texas, our fixed costs could absorb almost twice the amount of work that we were producing. So very little increase in fixed costs, but an increase in revenue. And so I'm like, let's do it. Let's take this on. Their customer list would double our customer list, so we would get in front of a bunch of customers that we don't already have. From a financial standpoint, we worked it out. It would pay for itself in a couple years. Seemed just like a smart thing to do. Well, we didn't realize we were going to buy the second company. And so when that second company, the one that took us 3 or 4 days to close on, when that happened, we were too far down the line with this other hand-dyed company to turn back. And really from I want to say an ethical or a moral standpoint, the founders of this other business, this hand-dyed business, they were all in. I mean, they had already given me their passwords, just a small, independently run business, and I just didn't feel right pulling the plug on it and really screwing them. So we took the hit. And went ahead and took this on, even though we probably shouldn't have in some ways. And then the founders of the hand-dyed business, we were supposed to close on January 1st. And we were like, look, we need a couple of months. We can't transition this over to Texas right away. We just don't have the bandwidth. It's the busiest time of the year. And they were like, yeah, of course. We put a service agreement in place where they were going to operate out of Arizona for a couple of months. Well, January 1st rolls around and they're like, we can't do it anymore. We need to transition it faster. So they ended up only producing for us for a week. And so we had to transition it to Texas the second week of January. And they made the mistake of telling all their employees, a few weeks before we closed. And so half of them left. And so we're in a really bad spot. And I don't know I guess we could have said, sorry, you promised us that you would take this on for the next month or 2 months, but I don't know what that's going to gain, so we just decided to suck it up and work 80 hours a week and make it happen and do the transition. So the month of January was unbelievably, ridiculously, crazy, stressful. As we were trying to take on this new business in Texas during the busiest time of the year, training new people in new techniques, new facility, new equipment, new products, blah, 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 blah. But we made it through. And it was about 6 weeks of utter hell and literally crying, just shake. I'd literally in the middle of the day have to go lay down in bed for 45 minutes because my brain I thought was going to explode from the stress. Now it's all good. Now I'm looking for our next acquisition. I'm just kidding.
You're not totally kidding, though.
I am kidding. I'm not. I mean, there is one more brand that I want to take on, but not for a year.
See? I think this is the challenge. Okay, so here's what's going on, I think, is you have a network business, meaning large numbers of buyers, potentially large numbers of sellers. And your instinct is to keep adding brands, which is actually really a good instinct. It's like you add more and more and more you can sell to that customer base, and you keep expanding that customer base. that increases the value and power of your network. So, I mean, Amazon's a network, right? Large numbers of sellers, large numbers of buyers. And so your instinct is to keep growing the network, which makes it more powerful and more profitable. That's a huge lift. And so when you're doing that, you're taking your eye off of the marketing ball or the leadership ball. That's the fundamental tension, is your instinct is telling you grow the network, which is a good instinct. But then this other stuff isn't happening when you're doing that, because that's your other unique genius. So, and you love growing the network. Like, that's your passion, right?
It is. It's fun. It's new. It's different. And right now, so the other pivot that we made is in Texas. You know, we went from Madeline Tosh being the brand in Texas, you know, that we had bought 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Now, as of last month, we have formed the Maddie Tosh Group, which is a distribution group. And so now we have 5 brands underneath it, to your point, so that we can have a presence in every independent yarn shop in the country through one of our brands. And nobody in our industry right now is doing that. Nobody is growing on the wholesale and distribution side of things. And I've got people coming to us, and it's mind-blowing, who have worked for some of the most prominent brands in the industry. If they want to jump ship and they want to come to us because they see us as the future. You know, they see our growth, they see our passion. And so I think, you know, the other illuminating part of this year is that I always thought this Texas business and this Nevada business, you know, when we first bought it, we envisioned sharing a marketing team. We envisioned sharing a leadership team. And things really blew up this summer, like a lot of crying, a lot of dysfunction. And it really made us understand that we have 2 separate businesses. It just is what it is. They're just 2 completely separate businesses with separate teams and separate goals. And to your point, I need to figure out how to spend time in each business. You know, good material time in each business and what my role is in each of the 2 businesses, and quit thinking about them as one, because they're just not.
You can't hire the M&A work. You can't hire somebody who can figure out the strategic acquisition and to manage through that. What if you threw $200,000 at a CMO, like a true high-level marketer? I know the New York Times guy is like, no, nobody can do it.
I just tried.
You tried. Tell me about that. What happened?
I had been working with a woman for the last 4 months to bring her on board, almost exactly what you just described. And it's somebody I've worked with for years and years and years and years. And so we've been working since September on a deal. And she just sent me a note this morning that she's decided to stay at her current place. Yes.
What was what it made her decide? I'm sorry. You were getting the bad news right and left. What made her decide to do that? Do you know, and do you believe it?
I do know, and I do believe it. And there's a teeny part of me that's relieved in some ways, because it's a little concerning that it's taken us 4 or 5 months and there's been indecision. And long story short, she's in her early 60s. She's a little bit older. I don't want to say paycheck to paycheck, but money is and security is extremely important to her at this stage in her life. And the place that she's at now, she's only been at for a couple years. And she's at a place that's run by a private equity company that is extremely stable.
Till it's not.
Yeah. And so it is. And I mean, I could go into that.
Right.
Well,
right. Sure.
Yeah. We both know what's going on over there. We have some inside information. And so I don't blame her. I think it makes the most sense for her probably to stay, but it just felt too risky because she would have been, she would have been a bigwig here.
That sounds like a terrible fit. So I think it's great. It's a terrible fit. You need somebody who's comfortable, moving fast, taking risks, trying new things, failing. Like, that's not her at all. Like, what are your characteristics, right? You're willing to try things even if they don't work, right?
Yes.
So go get that person. They're out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about the financial consequence, right? Okay, so say you pay them $200,000 a year. And that frees you up to do another deal or 2. You can do the math.
Yeah, well, and I've done it. We've done it. And my general manager, one of her unique gifts is product development. And so, that was part of the plan is if we can get her out of the marketing side, then we could recoup that money just in product development. So by freeing our general manager up and freeing me up, the two of us could go out and get new business.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe we could talk online because I don't even know how to approach it, and how to look for somebody like that.
It's tough. I mean, yeah.
It's scary. I mean, that's really scary.
Yeah, but necessary. Otherwise, you're going to be crying and it's just going to be so hard on you. And the people around you, too.
Yes. Yeah. No, I make a lot of people cry.
I'd like to go back to the Marketing 101 conversation a little bit. You guys may be aware, I did a dashboard podcast episode with Gene Marks recently, in which he described a little digital marketing experiment he did with Twitter, or X, as it's now called. He paid just $50 to boost a post that highlighted a book he'd written about CRM software. Gene has a big following on Twitter, and when he boosted the post, Twitter reported that he got more than 30,000 impressions for that one post, whatever impressions are. And 400 people, Twitter reported, clicked on the link. And Gene was thrilled by that. That's way more than he was hoping for. Except for one problem, which is that when he went to Google Analytics and checked for his website, none of those clicks actually came through. Basically none.
What do you mean they didn't come through?
On the landing page he had set up, nobody actually arrived there. And obviously there were no purchases of the book.
Whoa.
He's gotten a lot of response since then from people saying, you know what, I've had the same experience. You guys both have a lot of experience with digital marketing. I'm curious what you think of this, what you make of it.
So I have two theories on this. One is that these platforms basically lie to their users. There has been that exposed in the past, especially on Facebook. That's fact one. And then fact two is I think there's different criteria used for a click. I think Google potentially is saying, unless you are on this page for a certain amount of time, we're not going to count that as a view because it's probably a robot. And so I'd be willing to bet that actually Google is saying 0 because if there were even any that did click, it wasn't actually legitimate. That's my theory. I don't know what you think, Laura. You're far more experienced in this realm than me.
Well, I'm pretty far out of it. I mean, I haven't paid attention in a couple of years, but a couple of years ago, I do remember how burned I got with Facebook and Google. And, going back just to attribution, so Facebook will tell you, you had 1 million people go visit your site and you paid this amount for this 1 million people. And then Google says, oh, yeah, well, we gave you 1 million people. Well, it turns out they were the same 1 million people. So you're actually spending twice as much, but both of them are claiming that we're the ones who gave you this lead. And I ended up just spending way too much money one year unwittingly. And that was a hard lesson to learn.
How did you get out of that?
I reduced our budget. You reduce your budget and you just pay a lot more attention and you're just smarter. And you can kind of change the attribution stuff, the reporting, but you basically learn just not to trust anymore. It's rough, like super, super rough. Because as to your point, Shawn, you just can't trust the numbers. You just can't trust them. We're going through something right now where we've got an influencer that we pay, a little bit each month. And he's on Instagram and he's got a huge reach, but we get almost zero direct, no sales as a result. And this goes back to that sales funnel thing of trying to figure out when does it make sense to just have reach and when does it make sense to have sales, to measure things based on those clicks. So in Gene's case, okay, fine, 400 people didn't come to his site, but if 30,000 people saw his name and they saw the name of the book, is that worth the investment? Or is that wasted if they don't see his name 7 times or 10 times?
Right.
Especially now, it's so different than it was even 5 years ago with the amount of information that's out there. Does it even make sense if people only see your name 1 time? Or is that just a waste?
Laura, what's your conclusion with your influencer? Are you satisfied despite not getting any sales out of it?
I am. I happen to believe very strongly in the top of the funnel and in brand awareness. I mean, let's go back to the Hugh Jackman example. I mean, we had, 3 or 4 million people see his video. Did we get any direct sales from that? I don't think so. Maybe we sold $100 as a result, but people still talk about it, and so from a credibility standpoint, from a brand recognition standpoint, from a look at us, we're innovative, and we do things that other people don't do. I just think that that's priceless. But my marketing managers who manage the budget don't agree, because they want to see ROI. They want to see sales attributed to the money that they're spending. And so that's something this year that I've got to figure out, is how to communicate and work with them and set aside a certain amount of budget that we are not going to get a direct return on, and how to do that smartly in a way that's not just wasting money. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, that's just my intuition.
Honestly, I think your business is really lucky to have your perspective, because I think once organizations shift into this, if we can't track it, it doesn't exist. It's just bullshit.
If you follow that logic, though, if you say you're not concerned about attribution, don't you run the risk of kind of letting these platforms off the hook?
Well, they're not reliable. Like, you're gonna get Facebook to be honest with you? No fucking way, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what look like Gene's experience. They're not to be trusted. So you have to. Yeah, I don't know, man. What do you do?
Is there a platform that you trust more than others?
I trust LinkedIn a lot more than any other, for sure.
Oh,
for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I trust.
Well, you're B2B and Laura's not. I don't know that LinkedIn would be helpful to Laura, would it?
No, not really.
Probably not. Not with her products. I do think there are some consumer brands that actually could kill it on LinkedIn, but
no, not in the same way.
Not hers. No, probably not. But I do trust. I trust LinkedIn more because of where they get their money from. So here's the thing. LinkedIn gets its money in large part through subscriptions, recruiters who pay for their services. Like, they're motivated to provide value for those paid services. How does Google get its money? Advertising, right? Imagine if you paid a subscription to Google and the quality of the search results was correspondent to your subscription. It would change their behavior. But like, fundamentally, they're not beholden. They're beholden to no one because they're a monopoly. But at least with LinkedIn, I think they are trying to give value to their customer who is paying them money. And so I appreciate that. And also, you can see a lot more in LinkedIn than what Google gives you, which I appreciate. Like, you can see individuals. You can be like, oh, so-and-so liked that post. It's an individual. It's like a one-on-one sort of thing versus large groups and extrapolations.
I'm still stuck on, can I sell yarn on LinkedIn? Thank you,
I
Shawn,
know.
actually. I was just like, oh boy, here we go.
I mean,
2024.
Lauren and I interviewed a guy, he sold cookies, he's selling cookies on LinkedIn.
Seriously. So. I mean, it's our market. Like, a ton of our customers are professionals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking B2C.
Are the owners of yarn shops on LinkedIn?
Not a ton. No, but I'm thinking about our super user, like our ideal customer is a 45 to 65-year-old, 6-figure professional lawyer,
Wow.
Engineer.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep, that's my ideal customer. So
engineer.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Engineers are all over LinkedIn.
Yep.
They love LinkedIn. I have tons of connections there.
Shawn,
Yeah.
I think you just made me excited about marketing again.
Oh, that's really cool.
That could be so fun. Okay, wow.
I could see that. Yeah.
Do those ideal customers, Laura, buy primarily online, or
Yeah,
do they?
they're online because they're too busy. They don't have time to go like into the yarn shop and spend 4 hours.
No engineer is brick and mortaring. I mean, that's not
Not
totally
much.
true.
I mean,
but
some. But yeah, they're definitely, and they're comfortable online, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is it's an unexpected place. And so that's my favorite kind of marketing, is to stick out in unexpected places. What other yarn shops do you see marketing heavily on LinkedIn? None. It's low-hanging fruit. Yes, it makes it really easy and fun. Shit, I thought I was going to take some time off here, Shawn.
We're almost out of time, but before we go, I want to make note of one happy occasion. Shawn, you recently celebrated kind of an interesting landmark moment involving a former partner. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So December 23 was my last payment to my former business partner and co-founder. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Wow.
We started it in 2000. It really has been all me since 2017. But the deal we struck involved a really protracted payout. And it actually was fine, but it just symbolically, it's really nice to be like, okay, there's no more obligation to the past.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we were partners for 17 years before we broke it up. So yeah, thank you. I feel like that's the book that hasn't been written.
Are you still friends?
Not at all. No.
What's the book that hasn't been written?
The book that hasn't been written is all about partnership and partnership dynamics in a business. A ton of businesses get started with partnerships, and here's the paradox I've seen is that
dumb.
It's a well, that's a separate topic. But the paradox is businesses with partners tend to outperform those without partners in the beginning.
Okay, sure. That's because you have 2 free employees.
You have 2, right?
Yes.
2 free employees.
Yeah.
Like a family business.
Right.
Yep.
And then what happens is priorities change, people get divorced, like outside of the business partnership, people's skills deteriorate, people's engagement wanes, and then the one starts to resent the other. And pretty soon everybody forgets the contributions everybody made in the beginning, and they start to tell a different narrative about, well, I built this and you were just kind of along for the ride. And then, it's a business divorce. And I think there's so much to be written about that and how to manage through it, how to get to the other side and not blow up the business, how to prevent it in the first place.
Shawn, do you advise people not to start businesses with a partner, or do you advise them to choose partners carefully?
I think it really depends. If the person is missing a certain set of skills, which most of us are, so a lot of visionaries don't have good execution skills. A lot of good execution people don't have great visionary skills. I think it can be really powerful. The thing I really caution people against is not thinking about what the breakup looks like. Like, build a prenuptial agreement, have a good shareholder agreement so that when the thing happens, which it will, you just have a course of action that you can fall back on. Probably a shotgun clause in there somewhere. Maybe some sort of an agreed upon third party mediator or some kind of mediation process. Because, man, you can just blow up the business with legal fees. I mean, you can literally kill the business with the legal fees involved in this. So how do you not? Because everybody's so happy in the beginning, right? We're all in this together. And then when you start making money, it changes people. It really changes people. And then I would also, here's the last piece. I would get really clear on each owner's individual values and what they care about. And if there's not a strong overlap, the skills benefit won't offset that. If you are a win-lose person and your partner is a win-win person, that will never freaking work. It might work for a while, it might work for 5 years, 10 years, but it'll eventually blow up. So I think knowing what your values are and knowing what your partner's values are is really important, because that's the thing that will be the undoing of the business.
I would guess the other part is being very, very willing and aware to abandon the friendship or the partnership.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I think a lot of people start businesses because they are friends. Like I said, I'm not in contact with my former business partner, and largely because of the way the breakup went down. Like, I really wanted to make it a everybody wins kind of situation. She approached it as hard-nosed negotiation, and that's the problem. When you approach something from hard-nosed negotiation, often you leave relationships on the side of the road, dead and bleeding. It's a bummer, but someday I'll talk about that, how to navigate through that, because it really depends on the other party. Yeah, it's a lot. And then, boy, think about people who are married. Boy, Laura, you wouldn't know anything about that. A lot of people are in romantic partnerships too. And boy, wow, when that goes sideways.
My thanks to Shawn Busse and Laura Zander, and to our sponsor, The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thanks, everybody. Wait, don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at lauren@21hats.com. That's LOREN @21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.